Well, good morning, everybody. This is Lil Whiteley, your host of 360 Performance every Friday at 11 a.m. That was Stevie Wonder and Golden Lady. We're here streaming at KUHS Denver every week, every Friday, bringing you the best of what you can listen to and what you can see, of course. If you're watching us on video and listening to the wonderful sounds of the music here at KUHS Denver, you're not surprised at how wonderful the sounds come out here. We're streaming all across the world. Got a great show today for you. Our theme for today is vaccine, then play. That's our theme. We're going to have Amy Moran with us this morning, a nurse family practitioner. She's going to be joining us shortly here on the show. We're going to talk about all the different aspects of what boots on the ground kind of practicality about what's going on with the influence of the vaccine and how it's going to help our lives every day. Yet there's some timing. You got to be aware of the timing of what's going on with the vaccine. It's not exactly right away. You don't get an immediate response to your body making the changes. But that being said, I've got my lotion here, my Waltz Free from avcare.com. Go to shop, shop.avcare, avkare.com, shop.avcare.com, and pick up some Waltz Free. This is a lotion, alcohol-free lotion that not going to dry out your skin, and yet it's going to protect you against COVID viruses as well as SARS and all different other types of bad stuff. It's an antiseptic, germicidal hand lotion. It really works well. But check that out and take care of yourself. Because our theme today is about the vaccine and about then go play. Do we get to go see the games and watch the musicals and the concerts that the kids are having during the holiday time once the vaccines are out? Well, the critical care people, the first responders, they're going to be getting their vaccines first. I don't know if you're paying attention early morning news from C-SPAN or CNN and watching what's going on out in Washington and around the country. Our leaders are getting their vaccines as quickly as possible. This morning, the Vice President got his vaccine. Joe Biden will be getting his vaccine, President-elect, and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris will be getting her vaccine as well next week. But I'm going to give you some performance issues. Now, that's a little bit of performance. We're going to talk about performance this morning and get you on board with me about some of those sports issues. One of the favorite ones for me is tomorrow at, I think it's a 2:30 game start possibly. The number 3 Hawkeyes play number 1 Gonzaga men's basketball. That's going to be a game I will be watching that game and taking it in. Now, as you heard there, that's Amy Moran is joining us this morning. Good morning, Amy. How are you? Good to see you.
Hi.
That's all. I can. Looking great. Good morning this morning.
Good morning.
You got snow where you're at yet?
It's like a little dusting.
Yeah.
It's a little dusting. Yeah.
I'm
kind of a gray day. So.
Are the kids ready for snow? More snow? Have they been in the snow?
They have both been in, wanting more. I happen to have 2 kids who not only like to play in the snow, but love to ski in the snow. So they're chomping to go up to the mountains. We're going tomorrow. So.
Well,
yeah.
Which mountain do you go to?
We go, our favorites are the Winter Park Mary Jane area traditionally, and then Eldora. My daughter started ski team a year ago, so she joined the Eldora ski team, and so that has us up at Eldora a lot as well. We like going everywhere. We like changing it up.
I have a preference for for Copper Mountain because that's my home mountain. We got a place up there, and the Team Summit program is one of my special programs that I help out with my stuff, and I've got some, keep your fingers crossed, some Olympic hopefuls. Got a mogul downhiller, gets some air and does the moguls, and then I've got a snowboarder that is just hair on fire, loves to go fast, get big air out of the pipe, and the kid is 13.
Wow.
Oh yeah, this little guy is just
Wow. That's
amazing.
incredible.
Amazing.
You know, I observe my son watching the kids on the in the train parks, and I can tell he's like, he's doing the flips in his head. He's talking about it. He's like, I want to go on the jumps, you know. Meanwhile, he's 5. So I said, well, let's get your turns down. And
You may already know about this, but I get around all those different places up in the mountains, and Steamboat during the summertime has the ramp over the lake. So you get to practice on your skis and your board doing all your air stuff and your tricks and land in water for the summertime.
Know about. I'm not going to tell him. I'm not going to tell him.
Well, then you don't want to tell him about Woodward, which is at Copper Mountain, which has got it's got an indoor ramp to land into foam pits, as well as trampolines and an indoor skateboarding. I don't know what you call it, a hole or trick park or whatever. It's one of those wooden ones where you can play around on your skateboard.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
You know, that sounds like it blows get air out of the water. I mean, get air is great, but that's like a trampoline park. But this would be like a whole other.
Oh yeah, it's a whole. Yeah, Woodward's a whole other level, and you've got the artificial surface to do your park ramp stuff and land in a foam pit as well. It's an amazing facility. We got distracted for my formal welcome.
Okay.
For everybody.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. I love Amy coming on because it's familiar and we have so much to share. It's been a while since we last talked, so pardon our distractions. So formally, welcome to Amy Morin, family nurse practitioner, and mom, obviously, a mother of very active children. Are you a Denver native? Are you a Colorado native?
I am not a native. We transplanted here when I was very young. I'm the oldest of 4, and they're all natives. But grew up in Durango, Colorado. So
okay, so there.
When I was 6, 7, and yeah. So Colorado's my home.
Well, our theme today is going to be important for all Coloradans because it's about vaccine, then play. Because if we get a vaccine, there's this impression, oh, I'm cured. I can do whatever I want. I can take off my mask and throw it away. And that's not the case. We don't want to do that right away because there's at least, with the 2 injection protocol, there's at least a month of just get it in the system, let it work kind of thing. And then you can go out. Well, actually, you're going to go out anyway, but a little different confidence level, but you still want to wear your mask. Is that true?
Yeah. It is true. Currently, the recommendations still consist of wearing social distancing and wearing a mask, even for those who are vaccinated. And the reason for that, behind that, is really just that we're still gathering data. We don't have enough information to safely say it's okay. Say it's okay to go about your business as if you're protected. That said, these vaccines that are out, being administered as of this, last couple of weeks, and will continue to be administered to the general public as the rollouts continue. They are really promising, showing a very high protection rate, which will segue to some of the other sort of questions I know that arise with, well, what does that mean for us? But it would be foolish and cavalier to assume that you have a vaccine and therefore you're free to, go out and trash all your masks.
Yeah. So
sadly, I mean, but I think that the hope in it is that we're on the right track. We're getting there, and it is requiring sort of overwhelmingly. I think it's overwhelming to most people to channel this sense, this patience that everyone's feeling like, I just don't know if I could, just the toll it's taking, I think on our mental health, there's a big piece of mental health in all of this that is definitely talked about, but that, we're we're having to kind of stay the course, and it is not it's hard. It's really hard to do that.
Yeah, when healthcare professionals have a challenge to keep a firm up and stiff upper lip, how can the general public? It's difficult to ask for another pound of flesh, if you will, on the after I've already given so much. But that being said, I want to talk a little bit about the timing of things. Vaccination is one thing, but the term herd immunity has been bantered around erroneously and in bad timing, because herd immunity is not something you lead with, it's something that follows the other science.
Right. So I really appreciate you bringing that up, because there is a lot of confusion, I think, or, maybe even misinterpretation of what that means, herd immunity. So I wanted to read briefly just a brief description of herd immunity, and then talk a little bit about that, to your point.
Please do.
But yes, so herd immunity is a term used to describe when enough people in a population have protection, either from having been previously infected or being vaccinated, that it is unlikely a virus or a bacteria can spread and cause disease in others. As a result, everyone within the community is protected, even if some people don't have their own individual protection. But the caveat and the trick, not the trick, but the tricky part of this is that in this case, we don't know what the number is to get to that point. And I know that's the question everybody's asking and wanting to be able to answer. We don't have enough data yet. We don't know what that percentage rate of people in the community, in our community at large and locally, need to be vaccinated in order to confer herd immunity, especially to those who are vulnerable. So it's kind of like, not to totally segue, but what happened with the measles outbreaks is that enough people chose not to be vaccinated or did not get vaccinated to the point where we lost herd immunity, and these outbreaks have occurred. And so that's just sort of another example of how of herd immunity in recent times, the impact it has, whether it's working well or not. And so, yeah, we need more information. The best thing we can do is get vaccinated so that we can move forward with that.
Well,
so
and I'm glad, Amy, I'm glad you brought up the measles as an example, because the time that measles existed was a point in time in technology where there really wasn't technology that we have today. So when we look at that example from the scientific side of things, with the technology we have the ability to gather data in real time and much more quickly than that historical example would have been able to, so that we can in fact help our communities be a little bit more patient and work the science to our benefit with the vaccine. So get the vaccine, don't be afraid of that. The science has proven it's got an effectiveness rate based on the studies that were done with a population of samples that was big enough to give us good data, so that we can then go out with the vaccinated people, interact with people, hopefully your family, your kids, your grandparents, your uncles and aunts, and share that herd immunity parameters and get it going. But again, we still need the numbers. Now, people have bantered around 70% of the population, as little as maybe 50 or 60%, but I would go more for the 70, 80% of the population. Now, that turns out to be about 240 million people on a rough mathematical guess. Yeah. And I know that at my age, I'm scheduled to go get my vaccine when 115 million have gone ahead of me.
What you're bringing up, pardon the interruption,
that's okay.
Is that patience right now feels really hard. The amount that we're going to learn in a very short period of time, within days to weeks to months, is insurmountable. It's a lot. So hang in there, It's kind of like a hang in there. It's the last push. I think athletes among anyone understand that, So that last push, stick with it, just ride it out. This is hard, and I can do this.
Well, I was hoping to have Rhonda Blanford-Green on live with us today, but she's been overwhelmed with end of year kind of data management to get ready for 2021. They had this on again, off again dance with the football season, and Fortunately, in some regards, they were able to have the football season in Colorado instead of a springtime thing. But for football at the college level, many colleges decided, no, we're going to do the spring thing. So there are some conferences, not necessarily Division I, but more like Division II or mid-major conferences, like University of Northern Colorado. They're going to have a spring season. They did not have a fall season. So I was talking to Ron. I said, so if you get the vaccine, can we have a indoor basketball season? You know, that has, they're still going to do their 6 feet distancing. If you watch any of the NCAA, I led the show today with Gonzaga plays Iowa tomorrow. And if you've watched any of the college basketball, their bench is no longer one bench. It's more like 4 deep. And everybody is distanced out. So they've learned from the NBA in their bubble what they did and the WNBA. So she said, yeah, we're gonna do that. That's gonna be, you know, indoors, but fans are gonna be disappointed. There's not gonna be fans in the stands other than cardboard cutouts. So we need to kind of watch this and be prepared to adjust and adapt to what's going on. Now, that being said, the fans are not going to be patient once they feel any kind of increase in solidarity behind the vaccine. So I'm going to emphasize again, you've got about a month once you get the vaccine before your body starts to build those antigens to the antibody responses, before you're going to be able to pass some of that on through your interaction with your family to support a herd immunity concept. So be patient with that. So the next question I have for you, Amy, then what? I get the sniffles. I have a cough every once in a while, and I'm not going to go crazy and say, oh my God, COVID. We still have colds and other types of inflammatory responses that get involved. So how do I know the difference?
Right. Well, so the short answer is you don't, because you don't know. You can't. You know, the dogs might. I don't know if you heard about this article that the information came out about some data collected on, you know, dogs helping, especially in some of the airports, with determining if people have COVID. So they sniff you out for more than just substances, you know, but which I think is fascinating. I didn't get to read deeply about it, but it's pretty interesting. So, but really, it's that I don't. If I'm wanting to be able to, whatever it is, go to an outdoor gathering, socially distanced, or I'm wanting to, I'm considering a higher risk type activity. I really want to ask myself, do I feel well today? Because if I have good energy and I feel well and my temperature is normal and then, chances are I could be asymptomatic, but I know I don't have symptoms. When you have mild symptoms, it's really hard to determine between coronavirus, influenza, and a common cold. The things that stand out the most are, I think, fatigue, so which also comes with the flu. Sometimes people feel really, really fatigued, but there are a lot of reports of patients with more mild cases of COVID feeling just kind of run down and fatigued. They may not have a lot of other symptoms. There's another one that to add to the list, which is headache. If you're someone who gets headaches a lot, this is not going to be a good one for you. But for those of us out there who might be fortunate enough to not be suffering from chronic headaches or migraines, having a headache that's out of the blue or a little abnormal or isn't really easily explained could be an indicator that you could have contracted COVID. So those are two more, I think, that are helpful. But it's really hard, the sniffles, getting a little runny nose is probably not coronavirus, but I don't want to be quoted in saying if someone has a sniffly nose that there's no chance they have coronavirus infection. So it's tough because if you don't feel well right now, we don't have. I will say that there are some more tests coming out that can be helpful in this case, because if you're looking at having to make a hard decision about whether to show up outside your house, I mean, if you don't feel well and you're in your house, you're kind of like, okay, there's whoever else I live with who I could be exposing, but other than that, I can kind of like wait and see how I feel. But if you're facing a decision about whether or not to go out into the community, you really want to think, hard about the risk that you're posing to others and perpetuating the spread. So there is another test that came out that's now available. I think it's a Loom, and I'm not endorsing it, but I do know about the fact that it is the first completely self-sufficient at-home test that individuals can take and get pretty quick results. So the opportunity to be able to double check on that one day, do I have it or not? Now, it doesn't mean that days following that, but on this day, when I take this test, am I infected with coronavirus? And being able to answer that question can be really valuable, especially in the case of sports. So
yeah, and I want to build on that, especially about the events management and what's going in the heads of the administrators when they get the guidelines from the executive directors like Rhonda Blanford Green about, are we going to have our school concert? Are we going to have the what's the thing I used to be in, the financial services groups where we go out to conferences and compete in business stuff? Because it's not just sports. CHASA, just like in many states, has their association as well as athletics. So it's the symphony concert, it's the musical, it's the drama department as well as the sports and activities. Now before we go into some of that, I'm going to share the screen and share a little hope and some holiday wishes from some of my colleagues out there, one of which is Daisha Ago. She's the volleyball coach at Niwot High School. So she gave me a little voice message that I want everybody to hear for today, and see if my ability to do the technology.
My name is Daisha Ago. I'm the science teacher and the head volleyball coach at Niwot High School, and I just wanted to take a moment to send a message to Niwot Nation and just tell them how proud I am for their resiliency and their abilities to be flexible and learn in an environment that was, most would say, was not conducive to learning. But they found a way to make it work. My students, I'm so very proud of them, my volleyball players, without actually getting to have a season in the year of 2020, which was very strange for us, but they rose above and were still able to find success outside of the volleyball court and the classroom itself, while having to maintain distance and staying at home and only getting to participate in things at a very minimal amount compared to what they are used to. But in the end, we're all going to come out stronger than we were before, and my hopes and wishes for this holiday season for Niwot Nation are that we get to take a moment to just kind of reflect upon all the good that we were able to see during a year of trials and tribulations, and that we come back into 2021 just attacking it much stronger than we had come leaving 2020. So very proud of everyone, and I look forward to kind of getting back to a new normal, whatever that may look like, and I can't wait to see everybody. So go Cougs, always remember, it's a great day to be a Coug.
So that was Daisha Ago, the head volleyball coach and science teacher at Niwot High School. And she's not just any old science teacher, she's an AB and IP teacher. So she can follow our conversation pretty well about the do's and don'ts of COVID management. So she's frustrated just like I am. They didn't have a team sport. Volleyball didn't get to play. What would you say to those coaches and executives, Amy, about getting ready when they do get the chance and the vaccines are there? What are kind of the messages you want to share with those coaches?
Yeah, I think for right now it's that keeping the hope alive. So finding ways to connect and looking for those little nuggets of opportunity in this, because they are there. And whether that's needing a day, just finding your inspiration, because it's a tough time to have so much uncertainty still. I think the uncertainty window is a little smaller than it was. Still big though, we still have a lot that we're learning. And so it's really just that we're paying it forward. I mean, I think that's another way of thinking about it, is that right now it's really tough, but we're paying it forward. The more we do now, the better off are going to be later. And there will come a day when we're out there on the fields, you know, competing and enjoying that, you know, that realm of our culture. I think it's, you know, it's beyond just the physical and mental prowess that so many of these kids are kind of missing out on, this like opportunity, and not just children, but, you know, or kids, but also adults. So, you know, just that, you know, we're getting there, and the best thing we can be doing is staying the course now. So I think, like, I was trying to think of a good analogy for the, you know, finding the little nuggets of opportunity, but you see it everywhere, you know. And I think that the one thing the media has done well with is you know, trying to bring some positivity with these little, oh, you know, whether it's a community effort at, you know, putting together, you know, care packages that, you know, even if we can't be in the presence of each other, you know, sharing the love, sharing the support, and just assuming best intentions of others, you know. So, I mean, I think it's nothing special. It's just trying to show up as your best human self, you know, in a time when it's really hard.
Yeah,
to do that.
Creativity is on the rise, and I'm glad it is.
Yeah.
As I've said before, maybe even in your presence, my King Soopers hasn't been as clean. It's because of COVID. We have a raised level of sensitivity to cleanliness, and yet, as I say that, your point about being creative to establish interactions that keeps our minds active, because if we totally sequester, that competitive spirit gets diminished and challenged to a point of almost no return. So finding activities that we can get the kids outside with, and then, so my question for you with that is, when we do find those activities, and you recently were active with the kids, are we masking them outdoors? Are we not masking them outdoors? Or are we being sensitive to the distancing? And then when people get close, like at the top of a sledding hill, we put the mask on, and before we launch, we take the mask off. What are your thoughts about that?
You know, I would say that there's a kind of what I recommend, and then what I'm doing personally, because I think it's knowing your own self and knowing your family. One thing that's really interesting, and it's common knowledge now, is how actually very good, especially the younger children, are at wearing their masks. It just becomes part of what they do. So the less you're taking it on and off, the better, because it's just habit. It's like we brush our teeth in the morning. You know, they will follow in suit. So for my kids, we pretty much just have our masks on when we're out. Now, if my son and I are running a little race, because he loves to run, and we're doing a little jog down the street, and we see no one's coming, we'll set our masks down our chins so that we can breathe better. You know, but I'm always very cognizant of, like, getting the mask back up if we see anybody in sight. You know, just kind of doing, you know, sort of this additional courtesy measure that we're all taking, right? So if thinking about it, like, just, hey, I see you, you see me, we're community, we're wearing our masks. It's not about, you know, there's no judgment in it. There's thinking about it as community. And so what are you doing? Well, I mean, we're pretty vigilant mask wearers over here.
So I went to play basketball. I'll go play basketball 3 times a week, all by myself.
Yeah.
You know, I imagine the defense. I get creative in my imagination, and I've got my mask on, and all of a sudden there's a little tickle, and I'm trying desperately not to sneeze.
Yeah.
That is just disgusting. When I can't control it, and boosh, I launch one into the mask. It's like, where's the backup mask? You know,
where's the backup mask?
Yeah. So I know it's a challenge, but I'm trying to make a creative comic spin on it to make sure that we adapt and adjust in those moments when the tickle gets there and you just get overwhelmed at the wrong time. I've had really grateful moments with people where they said, "Oh, that must have been disgusting. Here, I have an extra mask for you." You know, so it's definitely a challenge. So the next question I have for you then is not so much about the mask as much as it is about the athletics. You know, I'm working out, I'm swimming, I'm working out, weightlifting, playing basketball, lonely as it might be, I still get sore. I get my aches and pains. And I want to go to the physical therapist that because of what I do, I get benefits because of that. But it's a really a test of patience, because you ever been on a massage bench with a mask on and that your head's in that hole? Beyond claustrophobic. So what are your recommendations for not only the professionals that are providing the service, but just you yourself, because I need to get the muscles worked out.
Yeah, I think it's a great question, and there's a lot of fear. There's definitely a fear factor there. What do I do? How do I take care of myself in this time? And fortunately now, I think that the professionals out there are just as motivated. One, it's their livelihood, and two, they care about their work. So they're, how do I do this safely? And so it is possible to be safe with taking all the precautions. So I think just remembering all those things that we do when we go out to the grocery store is the same thing applied in a person-to-person interaction. You're wearing a mask, you're washing your hands prior or hand sanitizing. You're going to do it during the visit. And then afterward, and keeping the mask on the whole time. It is hard to do. I think sometimes making sure you have a good mask is crucial. So good mask means it fits you well, and everyone's different. I mean, talk about a new corner in the market. Anyone making masks? Yeah, exactly. The adjustables. My husband happens to really like the ones that tie, like a surgeon's mask, or whatever. He likes the adjustability. It works for him. I don't like those, so I found ones that work for me. So really just having, your ones and enough of them. It's like if there's anything to invest in is having a comfortable mask. Don't make that a hurdle for yourself.
So let me give you a scenario, so that you can help me troubleshoot this for the benefit of people. I'm going into a session, whether it's a doctor or a therapist or a massage or whatever it is, and I'm going in and I see that they already have vinyl gloves on, and they have their mask on. They look great. Is there anything problematic of that scene right there that I should be asking a question of that therapist?
I think that this is tough because I'll tell you from a personal perspective, and this is just me. If a patient has ever, and I've had patients ask me, have you washed your hands? And I am never offended because they're looking out for themselves. They do not assume that I am doing my professional duty just because that's my professional duty. So I think just having a perspective of my I can do it kindly. I can say, hey, just want to make sure you washed your hands. Straightforward, hey, can I wash my hands? I want to make sure my hands are clean. Have you washed yours? Hey, I'm just making sure, finding a way to actually ask that question. If you haven't seen it happen, and then it's a trust factor. Are these people that there's a level of trust in the person that you're, giving your health over to and sharing in partnership with. So
is it equally reasonable to ask them, did you change your gloves from the last patient to me, if they're wearing vinyl gloves?
Sure, you could just ask, have you donned new gloves? Have you put on new gloves? I'm just making sure I'm checking the boxes for my own health, I think that's reasonable. I mean, normally gloves are put on after hand washing, which is usually happened either on the way into the room or once in the room. So I think it's reasonable to ask because it maybe that the provider forgot. I mean, we're human. So.
Well, and here's why I ask, because I've been in the grocery store with my wife, or I've been there by myself and going through and I'm watching people that got vinyl gloves on, right? And they're touching produce and they go from one piece of produce to the next. And I go, hold on a minute. Why did you touch? You should have taken those gloves off once you went from the apples to the guacamole or the avocados, because you just don't know. Now that's a little bit nitpicky, but it points out to the scientific premise that one environment to the next you have a chance of getting something
Transferring
transferred.
it. Right.
And so people
So-
don't understand what they're doing with their gloves, and that's why I brought it up, of being aware of that when you go see a therapist.
Yeah, I think anytime you walk into a room or an environment where you're going to be receiving services from somebody and you have a question about whether or not their hands are clean and their hands are going to be touching you or touching things that are going on you, it's important to feel confident. It affects your whole experience, not to mention your potentially your health, which is why it affects your experience. If you're scared or worried, can you really get the most out of the reason you're there, for the therapy. So I think, hey, it's uncomfortable, but it's a lot less uncomfortable just to ask the question. And I agree with you, Will. I think that, amongst medical professionals, proper hand washing and glove use is still something we're always practicing and reminding ourselves to do properly. And then you extend that into the general population, all these people out there who are trying to do the right thing and may or may not have all the knowledge about how to do that correctly, and may not be being trained or giving information, or getting mixed messages. They don't really know what to do, so they're just doing what they think is best.
And regretfully, Amy, the reason some practitioners are reluctant to change gloves, or they're kind of going into the gray areas as to when they change gloves, is economics. Because the cost
of resources.
Cost of PPE is not going down. In fact, because of pandemic, it's going up. So be aware that that's their motivation, but question that if that's their motivation, is that the service you want to be going to? If they're trying to cut corners in that, are they trying to cut corners with you? Now, I don't want to bring up a bad thing, but I want to use it as a segue, and then we'll continue the discussion after this next message about hope and wishes from the college level, because colleges and the professional sports area, they're concerned about money too. The lack of money because they're not able to broadcast, they're not able to perform enough. So one of those friends of mine out there in wonderful Utah, he was at the university, or at Colorado State University, and that was Paul Kirk. And Paul is dig this title, he's the Director of Strategic Communications for University of Utah, the Utes, and here's his message about hope.
This is Paul Kirk with Utah Athletics. My holiday hopes and wishes for Utah football fans would have to start, probably like everybody else, with health. Such a premium is put on that more than ever with everything that people are going through, and I would start there with good health for everybody. And just the hope that comes with persevering through challenging times. We are so fortunate here at Utah that we have such passionate fans who have been passionate, loyal, and dedicated for so long. And one of the many, many difficult things to see through these challenges has been, even when our teams have begun to return to action, not having those great fans in the stands, in person, being able to provide their energy and their passion to cheer on our teams. That disconnect has been hard for everybody, and those great fans are truly missed, and it's something that I know we all hope to get back to as soon as we possibly can. So that's my biggest wish is for health, but also that we can all gather again and we'll be able to connect with our teams. I know our student athletes, our coaches, and everybody misses that connection that we're so fortunate to have. So wish for the well-being of everybody, and that's most important, but when we can all be back together, that'll be fantastic.
Well, that was Paul Kirk, the Director of Strategic Communications for the University of Utah. And as he was talking about health, I want to make sure that everybody knows that if you want some support with that, go to avcare.com, shop.avcare.com, and pick up your Waltz free products, the lotion germicide as well as their disinfectant. But in addition to that, I want to make sure that everybody knows that I'm a big supporter of CBD products because of the aches and pains that I've gotten through athletics. And one of those CBD sources is with Empower. That's empowerbodycare.com. Check them out and use this code. You'll get a discount from me, 360 Performance, 360 Performance, See what I did there? Name of the show. Okay. 360 Performance is your code. You'll get a wonderful discount from me to you, whether it's the holiday season or not. Check it out. The CBD products there are the lotions, oils, and bath salts from empowerbodycare.com. Good stuff. And as Paul was saying, Amy, you know, they want the fans in the stands, but it's a safety issue, and it pulls back on my heartstrings about that. Gosh, it's like the smell of a good movie theater, you know, the popcorn. You know, it's the excitement and the energy in the stands, wanting to go and root your team on. So when you're having fans that you're talking to, or maybe you're a fan of something, what are you going to say to them? And when it kind of opens up a little bit, I'm going to say the numbers are going to grow as to how much they'll allow in the stands. What do you want to say to them in addition to the mask and how they prepare to go to that event in the near future?
I would say mine would be, so there are some things you can just do logistically to be ready. So having your hand sanitizer, having a way to clean your hands without, you know, water and soap in case it's unavailable, having a backup mask,
Yeah.
you know, having your own drinking vessel, maybe it's empty, you know, that's a, so there's obviously there are a lot of question marks because how then the event gets run, right? How it's being run.
Let me pause you right there, because most of the large coliseums that I've been talking to, they are not going to allow you to bring in, just like on the airplanes, a filled vessel.
Anything.
You can have an empty one, and they'll have their water supplies there that have already been sanitized, cleaned, and you know they feel comfortable with it. And you'll notice if you go to the workout places, you're not allowed to drink from a fountain. It's only the bottle fillers.
Yeah, they have the new, right. So having your own drinking vessel is a great option. That said, and I only mention that because it's something that we often forget. We're like, oh shoot, I didn't bring anything to drink. I gotta go buy something, or I gotta, you know, and we just won't have quite the same liberties we have had. But I think the biggest one is really preparing yourself mentally. This is a new experience. I get to go be around other people and share in this, you know, spectating of this event. However, it is not the same as it was. So what I'm doing is I'm preparing myself mentally to say, this is great. What things am I looking forward to? And what things am I going to make sure I'm still doing, whether or not it feels uncomfortable? So I'm going to want to reach out and slap fives with the person next to me. But I might have to remember that we're doing the elbow, you know, or we're not. We're just doing the like air five, or what's my thing I'm doing to help me stay safe and keep others safe, but still have fun. And I think like if you already have thought about that ahead and are prepared, maybe it's a sign, maybe it's a shirt you're wearing. You know, there are a lot of ways to be creative with it, but doing it ahead, then you get to still have that experience and stay safe and not have a negative experience as a result of it, or God forbid something happens and, you know, there's a COVID outbreak and it has to do with something that you inadvertently did even though you didn't mean to. You know, and that's the fear that people have and why we are taking these precautions. And they're real concerns. So there are ways to do it safely.
I have 3 things to add to that, and it's all based on 70s disco dancing. The first one is a onesie. You're going to dress in a onesie, and you're going to label with whatever warning signs you need to put on the onesie. So favorite team colors, that kind of thing. And then you're going to do the hip bump, you know, the bump in the 70s where you're bumping hips. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, you have the elbow projection. And the last thing is a straw, because it's going to can containers. There's no open cups. If you're going to get a beverage, it's going to be in a can. So if it's a soda or a beer, so bring your own straw.
Bring one that is reusable.
Yes.
They have a lot out there now. There's collapsible ones. There's so many cool products.
So
which is great for the environment too, right?
You want to have your
helping the environment.
You want to have your COVID case for your events.
The COVID case. Yeah.
So I think it's rooted in bringing back 70s disco dancing routines to help you be safe in the stands and celebrate the win of whatever your favorite team is. It's tongue in cheek. I've got to laugh because I might cry. based on all the frustration that's going on out there. In my world, I hear a lot of private conversations about my athletes dealing with depression and anxiety and frustration. So it's got to be happy. We've got to find the positive place to land so that we can deal with the creative. It's tenuous, but it's still creative. All the things we've said are going to challenge people. It takes courage to do what we're asking to do, because we've had so many years of doing it totally opposite and without restraint. The reprisals that we're going to face, regretfully, they're deadly.
Yeah.
And that's kind of saddening. And I'm not going to end there, obviously, but.
And that's a wrap.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Drop the mic and off you go.
Yeah, I just like to add something to that line of thinking, which is really that we're building a different kind of stamina right now. And so, I mean, it's a way to send that message or share that message with those who are really struggling and suffering. And, you know, there are going to be bad days, and bad days, the challenges are what make us stronger. Success is not what makes us stronger. You know, and you see that in academics, in athletics, in mental health, you know, challenges everywhere, physical health challenges. So, you know, is there ever a case, you know, of really remembering that? And I think having that be part of the daily mantra, especially in athletics, because.
Yeah, I have a phrase I use with my athletes about process, and it's the 3 Ps. Process peaks performance. So it's not the end result, it's not the ribbon, it's not the trophy, it's process peaks performance. And Michael Johnson, a 5-time gold medalist in track and field, was one of my exemplars over the years, where he would say, you know I'm going to win a race, not because of I want to win, but because of the process that I used to make sure my thumb and forefinger were connected together, making sure my elbows were in a certain stroking mesh, and making sure I heard my cleats hit the turf and the sound. So there were these monikers and touch points that he had, that he knew that if he hit it in certain rhythms, he could feel the .40 better time in his 440. He knew what those feelings were that would equate to that end result. So it's process peaks performance. And that's, you'll come up with your own phraseology for the younger kids that need different ways of saying it to them, but it's all about the journey. It's not about the end result, because the journey will define what you get at the end of the trip. So you're absolutely right. And it's a special set of resiliency that we've never had to really face as a global community.
Yeah.
This isn't just like our own neighborhood. This is a global community, and I want to ask you to talk a little bit about the emotional and mental toughness part of messaging to people who aren't quite there yet. They're not quite getting it, and they've had examples of why they should in their own family. The most graphic one was the young lady in California that spoke at the Democratic National Convention about how her father, a devoted Republican, died because of COVID, and she had a huge revelation for herself, but not enough people are getting the message. What do we need to say before we get to the final end as the example?
You know, that is such a good question, and I certainly, what comes to mind for me, I think there is just the practicing of continuing to send the same message. One thing we see in medicine, what we understand about us humans, is that sometimes it takes hearing it a lot or seeing it. You know, so how many different modalities can we use to continue to send this message of, you know, protecting yourself and protecting others means these things, and coronavirus, SARS-CoV-2 is real, and COVID-19 is the disease you get from it, and it's deadly. And so it's just continuing to, I think it's important to not, you know, I mean, sometimes you wonder, well, do you just need a fear factor? Like I deal with that with my kids sometimes. I'm thinking, why can't it just be that when I say it nicely the first time they listen, you know? But maybe I'm not giving them the space. Maybe I'm getting impatient, right? And you know, I love using analogies that, you know, about parenting, because I think we forget that we're not that different as adults, right? And so just repeating the message, kindness, showing up, we're a community. I care about you. I care about me. I care about my family. Here's why I'm saying what I'm saying. And please put on a mask. Please wash your hands. And that's not easy to do. It's much easier for me to sit here and chat with you about it because I trust you and I know, we have a relationship. But I think it's just taking that same concept, that same experience with those you do care about to those who maybe you don't have a relationship with, and may not have very positive feelings about too.
Yeah, and I'm glad you used a number of the words that I'm going to capsulize into one word, and that's gratitude. Asking for, discovering, and sharing gratitude on a daily basis is proven scientifically in the psychology field of being a way to promote happiness for yourself throughout the day. And so start the day with gratitude and saying things like, I'm grateful for the fact that you're here with me today and sharing your thoughts. I'm grateful for the influences that you've had on me in a client-patient relationship. Those kind of things need to be said often and routinely so that you remind yourself of what it would be like if they weren't here.
Yeah.
So the gratitude becomes a motivation to maybe push yourself beyond your comfort zone and put on a mask and wash your hands and make sure that you're be mindful enough to be socially separated in a way that's safe for you and everyone else. So I was grateful this morning that Vice President got the vaccine and was on national television with that message. I was grateful that a schedule has been made for President-elect Biden to be scheduled for his vaccine next week, along with Vice President-elect Kamala Harris. It's important to see those monikers, those touchstones of impressions doing what's right. Similar to what LeBron James did during the National Basketball Association tournaments at pregame, wearing a RBG shirt and honoring her. We need those kinds of reminders about what's right. So with that being said, maybe not my final question, but the question that seems fitting at this time is, Amy, what are your hopes and wishes for your 2021 and for the people that you care about?
Well, I will echo that it's remaining healthy is health. And I think the ability to remain, really, I'm grateful for what you just shared because it reminds me how important being grateful is and how it impacts and has influence over our perspective over so much else, and that we need to remember it continually. Being grateful yesterday may not be helping me with today. I need to have, what am I grateful for this morning? And so just to continue to find those reasons, those things in our lives that we're grateful for. And I'm really hopeful for, I just think finding the opportunity on a personal level, with my family, within everything that's happening and amidst this pandemic, there's so much opportunity that is often hard to see. And so where are those little nuggets of opportunity, and continue to live that, So those are the things that I'm going to be thinking about and talking about with my family going into 2021. And I am very optimistic for a promising 2021. So
I'm there with you. I'll echo that with you as well. A little tongue-in-cheek but serious. I'm grateful for my partner in life, my wife of over 40 years, in that she's been taking a journey through every single room of the house and cleaning it, to the point where I'm now really grateful for the fact that she showed me where all of this dust and crud is that I didn't realize was there until I pulled the cabinet back and started looking at the baseboards, or pulling stuff off of my shelves and going, my God, that dust got back there? Really?
So, yeah, that's deep cleaning for you.
And it's so therapeutic, more for her than me, because I'm not taking it as seriously as she is. I left her this morning with her taking out every single little piece of curio out of a cabinet and the tchotchkes that are up there and buffing them, and I'm going, my goodness, that is just so therapeutic. So I'm grateful for that. I'm also grateful for the opportunity to have so many wonderful people in my life that give me perspective and challenge me to think outside of my own limitations, when at one moment I might be fearful of trying that thought, but because of them, I've pushed into it and tried it. I love what I do because of that. I have athletes that I initially am supposedly the expert, but then in the conversation, I realize how much they have given me and shared with me about their awareness and their attention to the details in their world. Even though I may have been the stimulus, they were the teacher at the end of the journey. That's been extremely helpful to me. I am so jazzed about getting my own vaccine and being able to participate in the herd and share whatever good positive biologicals I can to build the case, build the files. But at the same time I say that, I want to be aware of the fact that at one point we had Ebola and didn't continue with what we learned from that, and were then faced with this pandemic because of that, and had a delay of over a year in really addressing it in the way we could have and should have if we would have paid attention to the science and what we had learned from Ebola and other things, SARS, swine flu. Heck, it goes back almost 20 years of knowledge that we had. And so people shouldn't be amazed at how fast pharma got things together, because that technology has been with us in the manufacturing of those pharmaceuticals since the Ebola vaccine and before. It was just a matter of releasing their science to go ahead and discover what we now have. So we could have had a vaccine back in March based on the speed with which they generated it if we would have just taken it seriously on January 28th. I tried not to get political. I tried really, really hard.
Oh, yeah, it's hard not to, and I think you've done a very eloquent job in really speaking your truth and what you believe, and what you've learned. It sounds like you've done a lot of pretty in-depth reading on it based on what you're saying, and I share a lot of those same sentiments, because it's important that we are where we are and we find our path forward. It's also important that we recognize the emotions and feelings we have about how we got here, because if we don't recognize those and find a way to express them, then that sits with us, and that's what then in turn turns into those challenges in mental health, anxiety, depression, all the other things, and we can't move forward. We're very stuck. So yeah, it's really a shame that we are where we are, and yet there's so much to look forward to, and there's so much being done about it, that it's a choice. It's just a choice to focus on what we can be optimistic about, and there's a lot of hope, and I have a lot of hope for where we're headed, and I'm very grateful for how far we've come. So.
Well, Amy Morin, I miss you. Thank you for being with me today. We're going to do this. We're going to do this again on an even better topic, an even more insightful and pleasant topic. But this was very beneficial, and I hope everybody out there who's listening takes it with as whatever level you need to take it. And if you have a question, we didn't quite hit it strong enough for you, go to 360mindset.com or kuhsdenver.com and send us your thoughts. Every Friday at 11 a.m. We're going to be streaming to you wherever you might be as you tune in to listen to 360 Performance. Thanks again, Amy. Glad to have you with me.
My pleasure.
Have a great day, everybody.
Great to see you.
Be well.
Right.
Be safe. Bye now.
Bye.
Well, there you have it, guys. I'll take it off board.